Hi everyone, my name is Kayla. Welcome back to Kay's Hidden Shelf, where we talk about books. Today I'm going to share with you my spoiler-free review for Nomads of the Sea by CobyZucker. This is book 1 in the Fishgut Guard, and Coby kindly provided a review copy in exchange for an honest review. Now this is an adult epic fantasy that is set in the Nisi archipelago. It is around 680 pages, and I have to say the physical copy is really nice. Aside from this beautiful cover that you can see, it has a nice matte finish, and the font size is actually pretty decent, so this was a nice, comfortable read. The setting for this world is slightly different as it does spend a lot of its time around the sea and a little bit of time on land. This was a nice refreshing change from the typical fantasy worlds that we see, though there are still traits of that in the world. The story itself centers around a civil war. There are zealous insurgents who are burning villages across the islands in an effort to return their Mangal or Medandal people back to their nomadic ways of life and away from their Lycan overlords. The remaining Medandal people who are opposed to this and want to keep the peace work alongside the Lycan soldiers to put down this rebellion. The Lycan soldiers and the country they come from represent more of a medieval type world where the Medandal people are much more nomadic, they're seafaring folk, and a lot more tribal in their ways. We also get 3 points of views in this, from Sig, Idalia, and Bryn. Now Sig is a young man, he's the son of a diplomat and one of the chieftains of the Medandal people. His father is training him to be a diplomat and hopefully one day take over as chieftain in their family and among their people. Idalia is the daughter of a renowned physician and scholar. Being trained as a scholar herself and the ways of a physician, she's sent alongside the Lycan soldiers when they go to help the Medandal loyalists against the rebellion. Her purpose there is to study the Medandal mages and learn more about them. And Bryn was once one of the foremost mages of the royal army back on Lysa, but now he struggles as he's finding himself enfeebled and on the run. The dynamics between the people in this, their cultures, religions, how they view one another was captivating. The Medandal people struggle as there is residual animosity against the Lycan people for a war that was waged on them decades ago, whereas the Lycan people more view the Medandal as a nuisance or backwards in their ways. Not only that, there's a language barrier between these groups of people. This adds a layer of depth to the story, it adds tension to situations, and I found it portrayed extremely well. The world building and magic system in this feel natural throughout the book and progresses well with the characters. For the magic system, it's often referred to as aethermancy or panchika, depending on what culture the character comes from. With this magic system, it allows the user to breathe in their magic and use it from their breath. This was really interesting for me for the reason that it does have drawbacks to the user. This just adds a nice layer to the story as there are consequences to using this magic. How the magic system is developed in the book is really nice because it leaves a little mystery to the reader as the story progresses. So it was just one of those things that made me want to keep turning the pages to find out more about the magic system, the story, and what happens to our characters. The character development in this is done well, and being able to see from 3 different perspectives of a warrior, a scholar, and a mage was a nice balance to the book. Also, having an interesting mix of science and magic just added a nice touch to the story. I'd say the pace in this is rather steady, with the last 30 to 40% taking off as the stakes get higher. I did not want to put this book down, and I found the more I read, the more payoff there was in this. Now, I will say there are some dark moments in this, one in particular that will probably stick with me for a while. It was just a combination of horrifying and moving. This book is dark, it's creepy, it's hopeful, and it's adventurous. There are memorable characters and moments in this, along with a quote that quickly became one of my favorites. Humans treat grief like some sort of vile malady. It is more akin to a scab, uncomfortable, unsightly, and a sure sign that the body is healing. Something I think might be beneficial to future editions or future books, as this is only book one in a series, would be a glossary of the major families or characters of importance. Though the book does a decent job at keeping you up with those names, there is just a lot to keep track of, a lot of names to remember who's on what side, and it would just be a nice point of reference, I think, for readers, but not necessary, as, like I said, the book does a decent job at trying to keep you familiar with those details. I gave Nomads of the Sea 4.5 out of 5 stars. This was a strong debut and a book I could see myself happily rereading. I was not ready for the story to be over, and I am so excited to see what happens in book 2 as the story does set up for continuation. This had action, it had mystery, magic, there was conflict, some political intrigue in this, and it was all wrapped up in an interesting world. I think if you enjoy books by Joe Abercrombie or John Gwynne, this is something you might want to give a try. The tone of the book and the way of storytelling in this just reminded me of those two authors as I was going through. So that is my review for Nomads of the Sea, book 1 in the Fishka Guard. Thank you again, Coby, for sending a review copy. I had so much fun with this, and it is a book I will remember for some time. Thank you everyone for watching, for being here, subscribing, for supporting the channel. It is such fun making these videos and getting to interact with you all. As always, take care of yourselves.